Betsy Sassenach, hello everybody. Gotta change that catchphrase. When last we met our heroes, we just finished creating this wonderful concept art of Riley Redcrest, the dragon riding villain of my charity collection, the Critical Rollers charity collection, and I'd fallen in love with this head design and with the idea of this dragon faced dragster racer with the Riley chilling in it, looking cool, bracing their lance in a drag racer. Maybe having a look at this concept for the Armour, which is sort of a little bit Dragon Ball. I also kind of, a lot of these sorts of characters, I like to make them look like Lu Bu, because Lu Bu from Dynasty Warriors is just burned into my memory. So we might, you know, for that, that's the sort of two feathers coming off the head. We might put in a little reference to that, maybe. But let's get started. I'm really keen to start sculpting because I've just been spending the last 2 days messing around with editing videos instead. And so what I really want to do is create that great concept. I know that one of the things I love the most about YouTubers is when they complain about how hard it is to make YouTube videos. So expect a lot more of that kind of content. Okay, so this is how my Blender sets up to begin with. I don't start with the cube, which is the famous main character of Blender. I permanently killed them and created this nice little setup where everything is just the way I like, except, oops, everything is blue because I got face orientation turned on. I don't particularly like that, but it is useful. So I've got everything set up the way I like to start, except every time I start I have to turn this thing off. And I've got this quite nice red thing. If you use Blender, you can do that in here in the viewport shading. If you click on this sphere, you can pick a bunch of other options. There's these nice options as well, like cavity and outline and things, so just make everything easier to see than the standard grey. So that's what I'm going with. Right, so I'm going to start with Riley's head, and I'll make it from scratch. I have a bunch of parts I could start with. I think if I started with the Elf Ranger's head, that would be the easiest thing to do, but instead I will start from scratch so you can kind of see how I do this. This sphere is 120 by 120, so it's already fairly high poly, which means I don't need to mess around with din topo. A lot of the time, a lot of the things that I'm going to be doing, probably you can tell me in the comments if you actually know what you're doing in Blender, and you can figure out a little bit better how to do this, because a lot of the way I do things is quite messy, but you know, that's part of this video series is, you know, you don't have to be excellent at everything, you just have to kind of know what you're doing. So I'm just sort of building out a face shape here. I think I really should have a picture of Kiryu perhaps to go off of, but I'll do that a little bit later. I'm just going to give my kind of impression of Kiryu. Again, I'm just using the one of the most useful tools in Blender is the elastic grab. I'm going to turn names on so you can kind of see perhaps what I'm doing. So elastic grab is one of the most useful tools for sculpting. You could sculpt a lot with just elastic grab and a couple other tools, which is how I'm going to do this, just to kind of show people how that all works. Swapping to inflate to bulk out the back of the skull. I always remember the weird art teacher that we had in school who used to sort of try and hang out with us after class. Probably nothing dodgy there. He did bring us a load of sweets at one point though, and that's a true story. He used to say, you know, you draw the head, you got to look out for how big the human head is. It's very large. The cranium is a lot bigger than you'd expect, and also to do your sort of head and hands bigger than you'd expect. When he was asked, you know, why are your head and hands always cartoonishly big, he said, because I'm an artist. And I think that was probably just him being defensive because he'd drawn them too big, but it's something that's always stuck with me. Okay, and one of the things I'll do with the face, I could have done this before I sculpted the head into shape, is you just, you can get a long way already towards it being face by just adding these spheres, adding for the nose and the head. Let's see if I can remember my shortcuts. A lot of Blender is remembering shortcuts, and I'm not very good at that, but again, this is kind of showing that you don't need to be a master at any of this kind of stuff. All I'm using so far is, you know, I've put a symmetry modifier on, the eyes, everything's spheres. I've only used inflate and elastic grab so far. I always use this X symmetry modifier here because, you know, living creatures, or humans certainly, have bilateral symmetry, which means that, you know, your left and your right are symmetrical generally, although once I finalize the model I will turn that off and start doing details that are asymmetrical, because I find, you know, that's a bit nice. One of the things that in game design and programming and stuff, it's nice to put in a little bit of randomness. The equivalent I feel in sculpting is to put in a little bit of asymmetry, whether that's the pose, whether that's face, these sorts of things. You know, you can see we're already getting fairly close to a face here. Swapping over to this Alt Q swaps if you want some hotkey tips. I really want to use din topo. People seem to be against din topo for probably very good reasons, but I think especially for newbies it is kind of the way to sculpt. But I'm going to stay away from it for a little while. It just creates new faces, which means you end up with something that has a million polygons, but which I think is why people don't like it, and they're just sort of randomly where you were sculpting, but I quite like it. So swapping over to the draw tool, we're just going to draw on some eyebrows there. I need to make a decision about whether I'm doing the mouth. Sometimes I'll just draw the mouth with crease. So we introduced two new tools, draw and crease. Crease is also a really good one where you want to make lines and stuff. That's where I really do need Din Topo, because you can see all the polys are getting stretched here. That doesn't happen. I'll just show you what happens when I turn it on. First I've got to set it so that it's not massive. So I usually set it to 2, but we'll try it with 3. Yeah, there we go. See, so you can make a nice little mouth there. That's already pretty good if you just do, you know, draw and crease. Nice little kind of mouth. But what I might do instead is to have an actual mouth. So going back, so we got these rings. What I'm going to need to do is rotate them so they don't look like that. Not that way. There we go. And those are going to be the eyelids. He looks great. And I always like this, you know, it looks like a certain thing, which I'm not going to say what type of doll it looks like, but it looks like a certain type of doll, and it always makes me laugh. I'll shape these eyelids. I can kind of come over the eyes. To be honest, the eyes need to be a bit further in, don't they? Using the inverse of inflate here, so holding down control, instead of inflating it creates these kind of holes. Actually blob is a bit better for that. So blob is kind of inflate. See, blob makes these nice bulges. Inflate kind of inflates the general area. Both of them are really nice for organic stuff. I'm mainly doing all my adjusting with elastic grab, and although I'm taking a bit of time over this, I don't actually particularly need to take much time with it yet. We're just sort of blocking things out. Now what I should do is add a reference image. Don't know what I just did there. Occasionally there is a hidden hotkey in Blender that is the Doom key, and if I press it, the whole thing generally freezes. So we'll see if I can manage not to press it. I am not entirely sure what it is. I haven't been able to locate the key, and I'm not sure what it does. I think it's some sort of adds a load of polygons, so it just crashes your computer as it tries to calculate all of them. And it's very similar to the key for enter sculpt mode, which I will press probably 1,000 times over the course of making this. So it's always a Russian roulette basically, and you have to hope that you've saved. Speaking of which, I'll save. Blender's autosave is actually quite good, though it pretends not to be, but if you go here to recover and you go to look for one of the autosaves, you generally have a good one there. So you can see that it actually saved a couple of minutes ago, but if you try to restore it, it usually is like, oh, I haven't got any saves. Don't know what you mean, mate. Okay, what would be a good idea would be to add a reference image. Yeah, there we go. So now I can kind of remember what it's exactly I'm making here. So let's go. Big helmet. Now for armor and stuff like that, it is better to, there's a couple different methods, as I've alluded to before. This is sort of sculpting. It's very similar to working with clay. And for armor and hard surfaces, it's generally better to model. So I would basically start with, you know, this as a geometric shape and then start editing it. I think that's called box modeling perhaps, or maybe box modeling is a type of that, but I'm no good at it, so I'm not going to do that, and we're keeping it simple. So I'm going to try and get as far as I can with this. Another way of doing it is with booleans, which is where you use shapes to cut out shapes, which creates these very sort of straight edges and surfaces. So for example, like that. So you can see that I've sort of cut out a nice line here. If this was to sort of come down over the face, you know, we're already halfway there to a pretty okay helmet. I'm using hard ops for this, but you can still just use it by going into here and creating the boolean normally in your modifier and selecting these cylinders. I'm not going to do that though. It's good, but I find it boring, and I prefer to just, you know, kind of go with the flow and sculpt, which is what I'm going to do. And I'll show you as we progress some sort of techniques for making those hard edges with sculpting, which is just using a couple more tools. So the ones for that would be pinch and flatten, which I'm missing a bit here. So flatten is here, you know, we would go here. You can see that's sort of defining the edge a little bit. Yeah, we've got this nice defined edge, and then pinch, you go along that flattened edge, and it basically amplifies the edge. See, and that looks okay. I mean, it doesn't look great, but we're not there yet. And you can pretty much do all the hard ops stuff by that, and I quite like the look it gets. It's sort of a bit classic, but what we're going to do here, I think, oh, what am I in? Oh, it's elastic snake hook instead, which is actually quite good. It's a bit more of an exaggerated version of grab, and you can make some kind of fun patterns by just messing around with it. Going back to elastic grab, I'm figuring this is going to be a kind of coif. I don't know if that's exactly what this is, but I'm thinking kind of like that's going to be the sort of rear thing. It'll probably be scales, or maybe that is this side part. Depends exactly how I do that, because the other way of doing that side part would be, you know, this comes forward much more and is those kind of like those bits are like that. I might be right, we'll see. Or I'll have have them be extra pieces that come out. I want to sculpt these wings first, and I want to get top this helmet. This face I do want visible though. And this is all just blocking out, but you basically just do passes and passes, and then having as much fun as you can, taking a break when you're not having fun anymore, and then coming back to it. I generally find a lot of stuff won't look good the first time, and you just got to not get annoyed about it. Oh, I'm really tempted to din topo here to make these into those bat wings. What's the better way of doing that? Do I make them all out of separate pieces and stick them all together, or do I just do it in one piece? I think it's simplicity's sake, you know, we're going simple here. Do it all in one piece. And we haven't even din topoed yet. So proud. But the problem is, yeah, these, so you can see like these are getting more and more stretched, which will eventually start to come out on the printed model, and smoothing them out is a little bit unreliable. Although there's ways we can do it. Remesh is the other way. I'm pretty sure what most people do is remesh rather than use din topo. It basically adds a whole bunch more polys to it, the whole model rather than the bit you're sculpting, so it keeps everything a bit more consistent. But I've only just started messing around with that. But a tip from me early on, very, very important tip if you are making your own miniatures for 3D printing, use remesh at the very end and then decimate everything down. That solves all of your resin trap problems, more or less. And I spent years trying to figure out all my resin trap problems, and it's just this bun. So do that, and you'll be ahead of a lot of people. Even the official Trench Crusade models, when they first came out, had a lot of resin traps in them, and that was actually what got me seeing a lot of people go, oh, this is unacceptable, it's so easy. It was what got me to go, oh, all my models are full of resin traps, and figure that out. So now that's not the case, and I have a lot of old models that I will be sorting out so that I can put them online for people. Just trying to figure out what exactly to do here. I think maybe we flatten this first. There's like 100 ways to skin a cat, or whatever the phrase is. Poor cat. So it's just about kind of thinking about how you're going to make this shape and then going about it. There'll always be a million different ways of doing it. It's what's quite nice. It's a little bit like like any art, where there isn't a one size fits, or there isn't a exact approach. Now, how does a wing work again? I think the bat wings kind of things, they're like individual fingers. So where do they come from? Do they come from the bottom, or do they come from the top? To Google. Okay, so it seems like for the portion that I'm doing, they would all come from the bottom, which did look more correct. Sure. Again, using the inverse, so holding control, so instead of drawing a big thingy, I'm now removing a big thingy. That looks okay. It's a little off from the concept art. This is sort of what I mean, you know, I create these things, I quite like them, and then I have to get them into the right shape. So I think this is a little more sort of angular and upright. So if I pull these back and these up. Also, I suppose part of the issue is I've drawn I've drawn two different anatomical wings here. And like I said, I shouldn't really be getting so hung up on the details here, still just in the blocking out stage, but still, you know, it's about picking the bits that you want to do and then doing them. And I've been thinking about this wing helmet for a while, so that's what I'm thinking about. Do some blobs for knuckles. I want a din topo so bad, man. These are, look at how jagged that's getting. To a certain extent, you won't actually notice any of this when the model is small. That's the other thing, is when you're doing minis, you can obsess about, you know, this kind of stuff, and it just won't turn up. That's one of the early things about figuring out models, is like, what detail is actually going to be visible at that scale? It's not a lot, actually. So you have to consider that. And we'll be having a look at that when we do the Armour, sure, because and I'll maybe show you some examples of some of my own Trench Crusade models that I had to learn that with. Now, yeah, we're just vibing on the helmet. It's quite simple there. I actually kind of like this shape that's coming out here, so I'm going to exaggerate that. Looks cool. And then we can think about, you know, does this come forward? Does it come down? Kind of like that. We can always pull it forward if we want. Now we'll have it come down, although, again, I want as much of his head to be visible as possible, because I know I'm going to do that cool eye detail. And like I say, at the scale, that's another thing to think about, is the distance between details. That distance can be teeny tiny. So if even if the scales are very visible here, if I do them on this side of the face, they're not going to be once he's printed out and he's, you know, he's 5 centimeters tall. And now I need to think about this, because what I would do with the coif is have the scales, but I've already got scales on this part. So that could just be the whole coif, and it comes around the front, opens up. Maybe putting a little bit too much on this helmet here, so I'm going to create an extra sphere, a bonus sphere for myself. Align everything. I've got that as a shortcut because I align constantly. Now, there's definitely a better way of doing this kind of shape. I am imagining, you know, somebody who's really good at Blender is seeing a lot of these things and just being like, my God, please stop doing that. And this is probably one of them where I'm just going to be like, look, get out of here. Because there's all this, you know, geometry inside the head that is not, there's no point to it. But we'll remesh that all out, so it'll be fine. I want a neck so I can see. Where'd that go? A circle. Circle's not what I meant. Get out of here, circle. Let's get our pal sphere back. I basically make everything out of spheres. If you're doing the sort of more box modeling stuff, you use cubes and all kinds of things like that. And, you know, I've used the ring, but equally I could have just, you know, done what I did there and mutilated a sphere into shape. Sphere-based sculpting is, you know, that's my technique. Trying to remember what the Japanese sword schools were called so that I can come up with a sphere technique. Sphere is maru in Japanese. This is a quick trip to Google.
This week we're going to take a look at the classical martial arts school of Onoha Itto-ryu Kenjutsu.
The Onoha Itto-ryu Kenjutsu school's practice room is rather unconventional.
Ryu, so Maro Ryu would be my traditional school of sculpting. Apologies, Japan, for how I say that. But you know, you made gacha games, so we're even. One of the things I got to remember is that this is a kid. All my models are kids, so I need to scale up some stuff a bit differently. Yeah, not bad. Looks a little bit more kid-like, I think. I don't know how it looked. I can't remember how it looked before. So I hope you, the viewer, can confirm that it hopefully looks more like a kid. Making something look more kid-like is generally just about, you know, making the head bigger compared to the body. Arms and legs are a bit shorter. Mouth and eyes are bigger. Nose a bit smaller. Okay, we got a nice eyebrow there. Beginning of a nice eyebrow. I do want to do the asymmetric eye, but I'll leave that for a second. I need to figure out this bottom part of the helmet, how I'm going to do that. Whether I do it as claws coming off here. The thing is, I like, even though it looks kind of silly, I like that big front piece, because the easy way of doing it in the way that I think would make sense is just this. Yeah, we have the claws just coming off around like that. We'll just think about this. I desperately want to steal the body from one of my others, but for now, we'll keep just making everything so that you can see how I do that. Again, Maru Ryu, we're making everything out of spheres. Oh yeah, and this is why I had the, just to show you another little thing that can trip you up in Blender, this is why I have that face orientation box open here. It's because the blue is showing you the outside, but if you do what I just did there, and you're just scaling something, and then you slip and it's not doing it. Oh, never mind then. Sometimes you can turn a model inside out by scaling it, and you wouldn't notice from just looking at it. And there's a few of my older models that used to have like inside out noses. A lot of my early faces that I would use for a lot of things, I'd have to keep turning the noses inside out, and I wouldn't understand why. Riley's kind of looking absolutely massive for a kid, but we'll sort that out. Might possibly bring in a body just to do for scale, but we'll get as far as we can first. It's important to have arms and legs bent if you're going to rig them, which I am going to rig them, because if you don't, it confuses the rigger. That's going to be the real fun bit, and it's going to be when I'm going to give up and I'm just going to make a new model. It's because the rigger, it's not very good. Or well, no, it's fine, but there's all kinds of problems that happen, and sometimes I just have no idea why. Kidifying him a bit, or them a bit. All my models are, you know, don't have an established gender. The names that I use for them, the colors that I use for them, you know, it's all just my own stuff. So feel free to come up with whatever you want if you get them, and you should, because it's for charity. If I ever use a gendered pronoun for them, it's just because I am a biased pig dog. We do not have politics on this channel, of course. No politics allowed. Sort of thinking Riley is a little bit older, like they strike me as a bit of a gangly adolescent, but I'm still gonna attempt to kidify them a fair bit. The big shoulders, but we're going to be adding shoulder plates on. All this is just going to be what's mostly below the armor, I think, unless I get real lazy and I just rig it all as one piece, which I have done before. It works quite well for flexible clothes and organics, but for armor you want generally some separate pieces on top of it. But I might make like a scale pattern over all of this, so below the armor you have the scales. Whoops, those feet have become a bit sort of duckish and strange. We'll figure it out. And because they're a kid, we make the feet and hands proportionally bigger as well. And these are, of course, the amazing hands. I'll also want to nick some hands from my other models as well, but I might make some because my hands are a little, never got the rigging quite right on them, so it'd be worth another go. Yeah, that's not bad. I still think it could be a little smaller, so just shoving all these limbs up into each other. These dang duck feet. I'm sure this isn't going to come back to haunt me. Along with cars, horses and guns, feet are one of the things that I'm not very good at. It already is going to haunt me. The rotation's all weird for them already. Oh well. Perfect. See, you can already see this is a 10 out of 10 miniature that I would pay almost any amount of money to. But don't worry, you will be able to buy them for a low price of less than any amount. So let's block out some of the armor because I'm not quite ready to rig that body yet. I want to see how everything fits together first. So going based off of this, Again, probably making experienced modelers cry rather than creating an actually hollow, beautiful piece of armor. We just make a big sphere. Maru, you know, sphere style. My favorite sumo wrestler, other than Takayasu, of course, is Chiyomaru, who is the eternal sphere. So this is all kind of dedicated to him, this style. May he rest in peace, or in Juryo or Makashita or wherever he is. Not in the top league, that's for sure. Another nice thing you can do with the inverse draw is create these quite solid transitions between layers, which I quite like to do. So if I'm doing armor and stuff, I'll usually hold down control and draw around, create like that. Sort of looks a bit like a sports bra now. Not entirely what I'm intending. So I'm going to flatten, see if that helps. Give him a flat chest instead of a big bulging sports bra. Yeah, I think that is helping though. Flatten's a nice one. Like I say, flatten's very important for armor, hard surfaces, those kinds of things. It's also just a nice tool in general for clearing things up. They're smooth as well, but lately I've come to like flatten a bit more. As you can see, it's kind of polishing out a lot of these polys. Let's do that inverse draw and then flatten again. We might not need to do it on the back. Depends how much is being covered by that, I guess, for the sake of being thorough. Let's do it. So again, holding control, doing my draw, not like that. And then it's gotten away from me a little bit here, hasn't it? Oh, that'll do. We'll fix it. You can clean up almost anything. That wasn't the right idea. I'm a little confused about what's happening with this armored sports bra, to be honest. Yeah, I think like that works okay. And then we pull this out here. So it's like a 2-layered armor thing now, which means we'll need to sort out what's happening on the back. I think what's happening on the back is it's just going to come down in one piece without that divot. That's not the tool I wanted. Yeah, like that. All right. So what are we going to do next? I want to block out some more of this armor, particularly the upper half, so that I can finish this helmet, and then I'm going to take a break, because this has already gone on quite a while. I could be doing this for hours, because there's quite a lot here that I want to sculpt. I really want to sculpt the dragon head for the car as well. I haven't actually sculpted a dinosaur or reptile head yet since I started modeling, which is ridiculous. Child me would be absolutely scandalized by that. What wonderful Saiyan shoulders we have here. Let's make them quite a bit smaller, shall we? It's a bit of an issue with mirror modifiers, is you often get these sort of 2 peaks. Now I'm kind of thinking, you know, if we are, I think last time we said we would maybe go with like a flame motif for the armor. So there's a sort of scaly lizard and then there's flamey armor. Yeah, actually, for now I think that looks pretty alright. Possibly, you know, this might be too big is the issue, but you know, looks okay. I think we also have, you know, this idea of a wing and an eye. I think another wing there would be overdoing it. The eye is a cool idea. Maybe do that. Tool. Please feel free to comment if you're a Blender expert and just solve all my problems for me and tell me that I'm doing things really inefficiently and I could be doing them way better, because that would be helpful. But like I say, part of what I want to show from this is that you don't need to be an expert or even any good. I haven't been sculpting in Blender very long. Well, it's been a couple of years, so it's long, but you know, I've just stuck in my wheelhouse and I've been able to do quite a lot with it. These eyeballs become bits of armor. What have we got going on there? So yeah, the sort of biceps and forceps. What are the forearms called? I don't know. And then I reckon we have the bare thighs for that sort of Grecian look. Maybe even bare upper arms as well. And bare, I thought you were making a dragon, mate. Add a belt. The ghoulies protector, whatever ghoulies Quinn may have, they'll need protector. I did want like a loincloth, but I don't want it getting in the way of the chair, so maybe just, yeah, like a little thing to have the same on the back. I'm just going to mirror this, even though it's going to be weird about it, and then apply that. Come in here, I'll be like, could you separate those? Thank you very much. Although, I'm actually going to get rid of this, because just, you know, if Riley was standing up, absolutely, but Riley's going to be sitting down in a chair, and their butt is not going to be seen, sadly, unless I can engineer some sort of like chair that shows the butt, but I don't think so. I'm sort of wondering whether to get rid of these. I quite like them. I quite like them just being circular, to be honest, or spherical, but you know me and spheres, we've established that. My issue here is always that I don't want to lose the symmetry, so I end up sculpting these out of alignment. Anyone in the chat who knows, or in the comments who knows how to align an object's rotation to another object, seems like that's definitely something I could Google, but I haven't. It's probably cost me hours of strife rather than a few minutes of Googling, but you know, ain't that the case with many things. I'm having a bit of a brainwave about the feet, galaxy brain moment, where I'm making the sort of, yeah, pointy feet to go with the sort of flame pattern. Plus if their feet are up, if they're lying back, give their feet a bit of character. Gone a bit better at feet. Comment comment in the chat if you disagree, or if you like my feet, comment with the top 10 feet you've ever seen. As a Sasquatch, I'm often, you know, unfairly stereotyped as having big feet, when actually I'm more of a mini-foot kind of guy myself. Before I met Mrs. Sassenach Jack, I would often have to deal with the disappointment in the faces of people who expected a Sasquatch to have a big feet, and then they saw I had a mini-feet instead. But, you know, in situations like that, you've just got to take things calmly, act like an adult, trash their tent, destroy their video camera, throw their car down the ravine. Another stereotype is that we Sasquatch are peaceful. And yeah, to a point, certainly more peaceful than humans, but not if you mess with our feet. Yeah, that's another tip for you. And then when they try and bring in the park rangers, you just fade into the Bigfoot dimension. See, even I use the term Bigfoot. That's how pernicious it is. Another thing a lot of people don't know about Sasquatches is we're actually the ambassadors of the galactic community. So if any of you are wondering why humans haven't been invited into the n-dimensional community, well, you can blame Susan and Brian and all. You can get lost. Looking pretty good. I'm kind of wondering, like, I'm not sure there's not really room for a scarf, but I do want the cape flapping in the wind. So maybe I'll just add one. Maybe it will just be a cape sort of on the back, you know. Can't make a cape out of a spear. That's ridiculous. There's got to be a better way. Well, you're probably right. So here I go anyway. It's truly going to stretch the limits of din topo, no pun intended, or no din topo, no pun intended. Yeah, something like that. It's not all the way there yet, obviously, but it's not bad. That'll be flapping in the wind. I never learned how to do clothing creases properly, so I'm just gonna pretend I know what I'm doing here. Yeah, no. Well, it's not great, but it's really that split. It's the fact that it's symmetrical that's really throwing me off, and, you know, everything else about it. Massaging the invisible sphere into place, hopefully not causing any massive problems by clipping everything through itself. Yeah, see, sphere cape. What can't you do with a sphere? Fair few things, actually, but I mean, you can make do, so you can more or less do everything with a sphere. Hell yeah, starting to like this. Now I need to bring back the rest of the helmet, don't I? The coif. See where we got to. Yeah, actually, I think the coif looks pretty good. It needs adjusting, obviously, but I also need to figure out a way to sort of integrate these with the helmet a little bit better. This I'm gonna pull out like that, just to create like a nice little segmenty bit. Oh, I wanted to top over those so bad. I'll just do that now. Later we'll get onto all that nonsense. I don't know why I'm not doing it. It's just sort of a challenge, and I'm slightly concerned that it'll crash my computer if I do that and record at the same time. So yeah, I reckon these sort of come forward. That way we still get the like multiple claws visible from the top. Something like that, like that. This is going to need to be a lot shorter is the issue. Unless these come down. All of this comes down. I do want running out of room a little bit here, but let's see what we can do. Because again, bearing in mind, all this is very small. That's finally done. I reckon we pull this up a bit. Yeah, good old elastic wrap. See, that's going to come back down. So I want these to be attached to the top part of the helmet, not this part, basically. That's what I'm thinking of. So I'd love to get 3 claws visible from the front, like I've got there. Maybe if I squish there and then pull those out. Getting a bit too squished. And these would need to come forward quite a bit. I think we can do it. I'm going to approach it in a different way, I think. Right, let's get rid of all this. The smooth tool's pretty nice as a little eraser. And then we're going to draw a nice thick bottom rim here. Someone outside's attacking a bin. I hope you can't hear that. Keeping these claws very big because the model's going to be small. So yeah, we've always got to think about that. As much as we want to make lovely, delicate detail, because you have basically infinite detail in 3D space. When we're dealing with miniatures, less is more. So you want to figure out, you know, what are the key details that you want to add and how can you add them. It's looking pretty cool, actually, I think. Lost control of the rotation a little bit here, but, you know, it's all good. It's fine, it's fine. And possibly we'll get rid of these anyway if they're sort of clipping into the seat here when they're laying back. All right, and then let's make a nice sort of knuckly bit over here. Might be too much knuckle, but it's this I want like a little bit more out. Then it clips into the shoulders. So perhaps this comes up a little bit at the back. I'll keep it away from anything going on back there and make this a little bit easier to figure out. Sure, pretty good for now. Yeah, I kind of want. How do I want that to look? Yeah, you could do. I kind of like that actually. Yeah, that's pretty cool as well. It might be that. Then I will want perhaps this. Man, the geometry here is getting a little wonky, but it's fine. We'll figure it out. One of the nice things about resin modeling is because everything becomes just one piece anyway at the end, you don't really have to worry about a whole lot. By contrast with sort of modeling for games, which is quite difficult. With resin models, the only issue is making them not have any holes in them. And like I say, just remesh them. That will almost always fix it. Of course, it won't always fix it because 3D modeling is the devil, but it will mostly fix it, most times. Not sure about how horrible this looks, but you know, eventually I'm going to turn on Din Topo and all my problems will be solved. And the one thing missing from the helmet is the hair piece, which I think we were going to do. The other option is, well, the thing is we don't really have room for hair unless we took all that back up. We've already got a cape. I don't think we need it. So let's do a nice little, you guessed it, a sphere. Our best pal, the sphere. Something isn't correctly aligned here. What's that? Okay. I think it'd be kind of cool to have maybe hang on a second, let's lower this a little bit and then we can have an extra piece. I think it'd be cool to have like a sort of flame bit. I think that might be a thing in, oops, that's a bit off, isn't it? I think that might be a thing in Avatar, right? The good cartoon, not the not as good Blue People show series of movies. You know, you'd think Sasquatch would be into a show about defending nature from humans, but it's quite unrealistic. That's not really how, you know, Mother Earth or aliens really goes. And you know, it's just one of those things, when you see something in a movie that you actually know about, you find it really hard to suspend your disbelief. This hat is getting ridiculous, but I'm also loving the big hat, so I think we're stuck with it. Now, I forgot to put symmetry on, but oh well. Shouldn't really have symmetry on for the hair anyway. Cool. And we'll put a little, put some little flowers in the hair at some point. Oh, is that point now? It might be now. This is the problem, is I can't stop once I get started. I need to take a break soon. I need to do something that isn't this. Why is that happening? Is this rotated? No, I just don't know how this works. This is a really nice little part of hard ops, the radial array, which I've always found quite difficult. I want 5, I think. Oh wait, I gotta look up Daffodil. 6. I want 6. That's not how that works. Okay. That's a problem. Yeah, it's fine. I don't really know what's going on here. Not letting me draw properly, but oh well. Is it symmetrical? No. That's the beauty of nature, isn't it? I'm gonna get rid of that. This is doing something weird. Oh no, subdivided it. The killer curse. See, this is why that was the killer. There's another way into the killer shortcut. I didn't even know that. I don't think that's exactly the killer shortcut, but it's similar, where it just hangs everything as it subdivides the hell out of something. But I'm not doing that. Yeah, why not? Hopefully I remembered to edit out all the ridiculous amount of time that actually took me. Still not perfect, but it's going to have to do. And there's the nice trumpety bit of the daffodil, the flower of Wales, the red dragon that waits to destroy the English. No politics allowed. What did we ever do to the Welsh anyway? Can't have been that bad if I wasn't taught about it in school. Nice. Oops. Maybe you need to make the petals bigger, but that's a problem for a future Sassenach Jack. And the issue with being a dimension travelling Sasquatch is that I will meet future Sassenach Jack and we will have words. Okay, not bad. Is there anything I'm particularly missing here? Let's just do some quick little gloves. Well, not really gloves, but glove covers to cover the top of the hand. Yeah, something like that. Mix some of these. Yeah, it's a bit wonky, but real life is wonky, isn't it? Speaking of future Jack, he's going to be really upset at how long this video already is, and how I just won't stop. This could certainly be better. We'll see. Maybe they'll fit with the rest once I've done it. Should maybe have just these sorts of things on the top instead and leave the rest quite smooth, because you want to break up the detail. We're probably going to have quite a bit of detail as well. So yeah, I'm thinking we need some areas that aren't fully detailed. What I might do, and then I'll really go to break, I swear. Let's do some scale patterns so I can see just how detailed this thing is going to become. And then I'll consider maybe not having the scale patterns or having less of them. I'm sort of wondering whether some of it is bare skin, that we keep that kind of Greek look, saving that for later just in case I mess everything up here. And there's definitely better ways to do scales here, but I really don't want to apply all of them as tiny objects. It'll take forever, although it's the best way of doing it. But actually, considering the body's going to be flexible, it's not. We'll just do it like this. Now it's important to not do these in the correct size or pay any attention to that. As you can see, I'm a master of such things. Will you notice, dear listener? Well, you'll only know that if you buy the model, won't you? So go do that. I kind of like it with the arms and legs bare. As the Sasquatch kids say, it's giving something. Giving post-apocalyptic chariot rider. Some sort of dark sun thing. Let's see. Should be able to bring all the armor back. Yeah, I quite like that. Got a nice, we need to get rid of that clipping through there, obviously, but got a nice bit of sort of smoothness and detail. I'll be making the armor a little bit more ornate, so you've got to be careful not to go over detailed there. Be adding some flame patterns, but then we'll have the nice smooth sections. No wonder Maybe. Don't know whether to get those or not. We'll see how we get on. Maybe they could just be a bit higher up to avoid to give it a little separation. Oops. Yeah, I mean, this is not what I imagined Riley Redcrest to look like at all, but I really like it. Mistakes into miracles. That's the nice thing about having no internal imagination and, you know, being a soulless husk who can't rotate a 3D apple in your head. Is, you know, sometimes you just make something cool that you didn't expect. Okay, now one more thing, then I really will go to a break. I'm so sorry, future me. It's going to be so much editing, but at least you'll be able to complain about editing, and that's great content. Now, does the lizard have an eyelid? Google. Yes. And it has like more pronounced eyelid than a person. My issue here is though the scale. How am I going to make that remote? Oh, we could just sort of draw them in, which might be how I'll end up doing it eventually. But that is not actually very reliable for people being able to see them and once they're sort of painted and everything like that. Oh well, we'll see. I've got the older version if I want. I'm not 100% sold, but I would like to be able to make this work because I think it's a cool idea. Just at the moment the eye position looks a bit weird. I want the corners of the eye to match up, but then it looks a little bit too high up. It's a little bit better. Little tweaks. Figure out what you don't like about something. Tweak it. See if it looks good. That's what it's all about. I'm coming back to things after a little while once you've taken a break. Take a break! Okay, I'll take a break. Just let me do this one a little bit there. Okay. It has to be said, I really want to keep doing this, but I'm going to take a break now because I promised myself that I would. So next time I'll be doing some flame patterns. I'll be doing the eyes. I really want to do the big lizard head for the wheelchair. I think Riley's already looking great. This is already one of my favorites. So yeah, thank you for watching. Remember to like and subscribe. Remember to hit me on the bell. Remember to buy the models, donate to the charity, do all that good stuff. And a very sassy Sassenach goodbye. See ya. This is future Sassenach Jack. Previously existing me was right. I am not happy at all about the length of this video. I'm so mad. If only there was something someone could do that could calm me down. Oh, that's awfully kind of you, dear viewer. You're right. It would make me feel much better if you hit the link in the description or on my profile and bought one of these wonderful models with real rolling wheels what roll like a wheel rolls. With all the proceeds going to charity to help hard-working British kids who need wheelchairs, that's right, but also helping British kids who might not be hard-working at all and may even be downright lazy, but still need wheelchairs and deserve to be able to move around. God bless you, dear viewer. You've truly proven you aren't a selfish monster like past me. May the real rolling wheels, what roll like a wheel rolls of fate, carry you to the destiny you dearly deserve.